Hello everyone, I'm Hillary with Dominion Tea, and today we're going to talk about those tips and tricks to incorporate tea into your everyday cooking. It's actually a lot easier than you think. So I'm standing here with all sorts of things, but it's to point out the obvious places where you can incorporate tea into a recipe. The first place I always start is butter. And why do I start with butter? It's very simple. You're going to melt it in a saucepan and you're going to add your tea to it and you're going to let it steep. Now we'll give you the exact recipe in the notes to this video. But the goal here when you're looking at recipes is to think about liquids and fat. And the reason you want to think about both of those are perfect places to add the flavor of tea. So you're going to steep your tea in your butter. You can have a lot of fun, recool that butter, and just use it straight on toast. You're going to taste the tea that's in it. And you can have a lot of fun with it that way. You're going to steep it in your milk, and I don't just mean cow's milk. You can do this with almond milk, rice, soy. It works really well. When you're dealing with milk or butter, though, you're going to want to concentrate your teas. So what I mean by that is you think about the ratios we currently use, which is 3 grams of tea, roughly a teaspoon to a tablespoon, give or take the tea leaf length, to 8 ounces of liquid. When you're dealing with 8 ounces of milk, though, to get your tea flavor through, you're really going to want to concentrate it. So double the amount of tea you're going to steep in it. Some recipes, if you see them out there, are actually doubling your steep time. Don't do that to yourself because what you're doing is you're releasing the tannic acid in, and you might actually end up with a bitter aftertaste that you're going to have to compensate for by adding more sugar to your recipe. So it's better to actually concentrate the tea, keep your steep times to 5 minutes if you're dealing with actual tea leaves. If you're going to work with rooibos or honeybush, you can absolutely go out 10 to 12, which you'll see in some recipes, because they don't have tannic acid in them. So they're not going to release that into the liquid for you. So you can add it to your milk, steep it, and then add your milk into your recipe. This is great for cakes. You can do it with your butter if you're incorporating butter. The other fun thing you can do with butter is recool it into those fun butter molds that you can find at the cooking shops and serve them out to your guests at any kind of party or holiday event. The other thing you can do, and you will find the recipe here too, is you can infuse maple syrup with tea. So we had fun this year and did our lapsang souchong in maple syrup. And so we'll give you that link. Gives you kind of a smoky sweet effect. That's a lot of fun. And last but not least, you can actually incorporate the tea into your recipe directly and eat it. So tea leaves are absolutely edible, but let me give you a fair warning, especially when you're purchasing from Dominion Tea. Our leaves are long. So you're going to need to break out the mortar and pestle or your spice grinder, whichever you might have handy, and grind those tea leaves down. You're going to do them dry before you incorporate them into the recipe. The reason you're going to want to do that, those long leaves, when you go and bake them and cook them, they're chewy. So if they're in the middle of your cake, you're going to have an interesting surprise trying to eat that cake. So you would be much better off if you get it down to a fine grain and then incorporate it. So it kind of looks like a powder is what you're aiming for. And I will honestly tell you, you're going to be at it a while with a mortar and pestle. You'd be better off with a spice grinder if you're going to go that route. But think about how much tea you want when you're incorporating it. When you do that, you're going to work in tablespoons typically. Keep in mind 4 tablespoons is a 1/4 cup. You're replacing flour with the tea when you're baking. So as you kind of approach all your recipes, keep in mind, right, liquid fat, sometimes sugar, especially if you've got a liquid sugar like maple syrup in it. Don't forget that spice grinder if you're going to replace flour with a tablespoon or 2 of ground tea. I would say with the ground tea though, keep it to straight teas. Don't go putting a blend through the spice grinder because you're going to be in for an interesting shock, especially with something like a masala chai, which is predominantly spice. You're going to end up with a much more concentrated flavor than you may want in your cake. So leave the grinding to straight teas. And last but not least, enjoy playing. We're going to leave you with links to all sorts of recipes in the show notes. So go play, enjoy, leave us comments, leave us your recipes if you've got any that you really think are worth sharing, and enjoy cooking with tea.